Don't forget to like and subscribe. All right. Who is there? I hear you. You are standing behind that bush right over there. If you have a quarrel with me, then come out so we can settle it face to face. Otherwise, I suggest you be off with you. I have a beast to finish skinning for my dinner, and I'd prefer to not be interrupted. Well, what is a young one like you doing, trailing me this deep into the forest? I suppose you're not here for the hunting. What a pity. I already have an inkling about why you followed me, but go ahead, say your piece. I thought as much. You have found a great, inspiring warrior who you idolize and wish to flatter him into mentoring you. Mentoring in what exactly? The blade, the bow, perhaps a nice, raw battle with fists. Anything, eh? Well then, you have only yourself to blame. If you leave me with such a broad opening in which to teach, I will take full advantage. Let me begin by asking you this. Do you have a knife with you? Very good. You are going to pitch in and help me with this carcass. I've made camp nearby, so we can take the meat there when we're finished, and have a proper talk. Now the key to a perfectly balanced seasoning is knowing which herbs are stronger and which are more mild or bland. If you go by equal quantities alone, you'll be heading for disaster. That is why it's so important to know the true nature of each ingredient. Once you have each one organized in your head, an entire world of possibilities opens up to you. Pluck a few more leaves off that bay plant for me, yes? That stem right there. I was fortunate enough to discover a patch of them earlier, so I picked up quite a few branches, and also took note of where the remaining ones are in my parchment book. I'm actually hoping to move to this area, and before I can start my own herb garden, I'll need to know where I can find them in the wild. Thankfully, this entire forest is dotted with all the local ones I could ever wish for. Having time to focus on all the recipes I've never had time to try before is a dream I never thought to achieve. And everything I require to do so is virtually right outside my door. Nature is a wellspring of resources, if one can only take what one needs and leave plenty to flourish and continue giving. You disagree, young one. I see. It would be wise of you to heed my words. If your head is filled with naught but dreams of grandeur, there will be little room for everything else. You said it yourself that you would be grateful for my mentoring any subject at all. So why the attitude? You must have not truly meant those words. If your sole motivation is to learn the ways of war from one who has made a name far and wide by demonstrating such skills, I must now disappoint you. Although, from how disinterested and frustrated you look by my cooking lessons, it seems I may have already done so. I value honesty more than anything else. So speak your mind. Do not hold back. Yeah, yeah, I thought as much. Calm your mind, young one. I may not be a warrior any longer, but I still do not appreciate being insulted. Yes, I have indeed laid down my role with the king's army, and now I enjoy picking leaves and cooking good food rather than doing noble deeds, as you call them. But I am in no way accountable to you or to anyone else for that matter for the choices that I make for myself. Now please, sit back down, hear me out. If you stomp off in a huff now, you never have the answers you seek from me. About why the so-called famous warrior wound up picking herbs and cooking in the forest, alone, off the beaten path. That is much better. Perhaps there's still a spark of hope for you yet. First things first. Have you any ambitions other than becoming a warrior? Uh-huh. And what does glory in battle mean to you? Does it mean gifts from admirers, medals from the king, trinkets from his lords and ladies? Perhaps do you seek fame and fortune in of itself? To me, it does not sound like you thought this through. You can state a goal as clearly as you like, but that does not mean you truly understand what you might gain should you reach that goal, or even what you may lose. The path you seek is not paved with glory, as you imagine. I've walked that path for decades. At first they said, "Oh, you're a strong lad. You could be an incredible warrior." And I listened without a thought. I trained, I fought, and I rose through the ranks slowly. I was a force to be reckoned with, a weapon that my generals wielded against our enemies. And I was happy to be used so. But then, there was one night in the camp when the cook fell ill, and they needed someone to step up. I used to cook with my mother when I was young, but I had no need to employ those skills for years. And so I volunteered, and suddenly had an entire camp kitchen to supervise and batches of foods to cook myself. It was when all came flooding back to me that night. The excitement of creating a new dish, balancing the ingredients to produce the most flavorful experience. I had forgotten what joy it had brought me in my youth, and I slowly realized how many years have passed since I've experienced this joy. When you commit to being a warrior, when you see what it's truly like in a battlefield, you see there's no enemies. There's only dumb, foolish kids fighting for someone they barely even understand it. And so they're exposed to violence and bloodshed, and think of it as some kind of glory. You witness injustice at all levels of humanity, and can only take minimal steps to decrease it. As a chef, however, I found that I could do much more good with one delicious meal than all the battles I've fought combined. Violence cannot fill the bellies of starving children, nor is it a commodity with which to bargain for peace. But food, even just the seasoning itself, can be the difference between war and friendship. Eating is communal on a primal level, Good food can take a smile from the grimmest face in the ground and bring the most bitter of enemies together, if only for a time. That is the kind of influence that I wish to have in the world. That is the path that I wish to walk for the rest of my days. There's a simple but powerful nobility in crafting enjoyable food for others. And that is why I left my warrior mantle behind me and took up a chef's apron instead. And so, feel free to be disappointed in your hero's softened state as you'd like, young one. But if I could teach you anything, it would be that a life devoid of simple pleasures and passions is hardly a life well lived. If you truly wish to be a warrior, so be it. And be sure that it's not a fantasy that you are chasing, and rather something that will bring you fulfillment. I cannot say I've met many fellow warriors who believe that fighting alone is their true purpose, and I would advise you to think carefully while you still have the chance. Oh, hush, child. That is no reason to cry. I mean, look, I still have all this meat to finish seasoning and roasting. It will take a while, but if you'd like to bear my company long enough, we could share a meal together. Perhaps my cooking will help you sway your mind. Food often does, when words, swords,